After President Kennedy died, the city of Dallas launched an initiative to improve morale and the city's image. Goals for Dallas was led by then-Mayor Eric Johnson, and it led to the construction of DFW Airport, the Convention Center, the Museum of Fine Arts, and many other amenities we have in the city that a lot of people today might take for granted. The program also helped establish schools, libraries, and parks. So here we are, 50 years later, and joining us now is the founder of DART, Walter Heumann, and SMU McGuire Ethics Center Director, Rita Kirk.
Thank you.
Rita and Walter, thank you for coming in.
Thanks for having us.
So tell us, first of all, how this program, the Goals for Dallas, really started in the aftermath of the assassination of the president.
The Eric Johnson was inaugurated, sworn in roughly 2.5 months after the assassination of the president. And he had two options. One, to implement a program consistent with the way he ran a corporation. That is, come up with some ideas.
Eric Johnson.
Eric Johnson.
Right.
And lay out an action plan and announce it to the public and go with it. He decided to do something radically different, and that is create the Goals for Dallas program. And it had three major components. One, instead of just dealing myopically with the city of Dallas, he dealt with a larger region, and he dealt with 12 separate broad goals: government, design of the city, health, cultural activities, economy, and so forth. Second thing he did was look long-term instead of short-term. And the third was involve people who had never been involved before in city management, both across racial, economic, geographical lines, young and old.
Do you think, for Walter and Rita, both of you, do you think that Eric Johnson would have had this idea or the ability to get so much of this accomplished had it not been for the tragedy that had occurred just prior to him entering office?
Well, you know, part of the problem anytime is that when you have a great tragedy like that, people have a tendency to look inward instead of forward. Yeah. And I think that's one of his great talents, was his ability to really inspire us for the next 50 years, and not just what we were going to do this year.
Rita, how do you take an idea, and this was a dream big idea, and then turn it into action without it seeming to be, this is Eric Johnson's Goals for Dallas, not Dallas Goals for Dallas?
Well, one of the reasons he did, it was clearly, including the people that Walt was talking about, and Walt was among those people that was brought together, but you get so many people who have great passion about what they're doing, and you give them a trajectory and a goal to work toward, each of them contributing their own portion, and it becomes their city, not Mayor Johnson's city.
You ask a profound question, whether he would have created Goals for Dallas had President Kennedy not been assassinated. I personally think he would. Because he's that kind of a leader. He's a broad-based, ethical leader that believes strongly in, when you're dealing with the city, you're dealing with a broader group of people and not being very insular. So I think that's one point. Secondly, he brought on board Brigadier General Bright Godbold. And he had a very heavy Southern accent. And I remember the first time we met, but he is so totally committed to people getting involved in goal-setting process. And he was a great administrator. So Eric was the visionary, and Bright made it happen.
Boots on the ground, right?
Exactly.
What's the greatest legacy? Could you point to one thing, or is that almost impossible? Rita, what do you think?
I think it's really clear. It was about his ethical leadership as much as anything else. It mattered to him how it was done. And that we really did think about more than just ourselves, but the legacy of what we're going to leave. And I still think that's where we need to be today, looking at the next 50 years down the road and thinking about what kind of a people do we want to be.
But I mean, when you think about all the capital improvements, the DFW Airport alone, and LBJ, and the tollway.
Yeah.
But
the list
is endless.
I'll ask you the question. What is more important to change the mindset of the people who were, in effect, feeling like Dallas is one of the worst places in the universe after the assassination, or building brick and mortar? And I think it's profoundly more important that the psyche of the people changed and started looking forward, rather than, oh, woe is me, we're the city of hate, and we're President Kennedy was assassinated.
Let me ask you a question. Maybe you've asked yourself. Get up in the morning and look in the mirror. What do you think is the greatest remaining undone thing?
From this time period?
From that time period.
Go ahead. Ladies first.
Oh, wow, thank you. I still think education is one of the problems that we faced then that we still face today. We've come a long way in integrating the city and moving things forward, but we have not yet dealt with the fundamental issues of children not knowing enough of reading and writing and just basic skills.
Walt?
I think it's the tragedy of the inner city, not only in Dallas, but in America. Since World War II, we've spent literally hundreds of billions of dollars on the inner cities. And almost by any metric that you look at, education, housing, race relations, physical improvements, crime, we're probably no better off than we were then. And why is that? A number of reasons. But we better find out, and we better attack it in a comprehensive way. Otherwise, we have a national resource that is being left at the starting gate.
A generation, some
Absolutely.
would say. So we've made so much ground, we've covered so much ground, but there's a lot more to be done.
Exactly.
Right?
A lot more.
Here in Dallas and nationwide. So Walt, Rita, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having
We
us.
really appreciate your perspective. Thank you.
Thank you.
And coming up next on the Texas Daily, the new #2 company in the U.S. Do you know who it is? It knocked a Texas company way down to #3. We'll tell you the secret coming up next. Stay here.